Sometimes people don't do what we want them to do, and it can be so frustrating. We know what's best for them. We try to explain the right thing for them to do. We can try logic or nagging, and they don't do it. They don't even listen. I wonder if we have any parents here had an experience with your children. You know, you tell them this wise and wholesome thing, a way to behave, and they do the opposite. It might be part of the definition of being a parent. So we say, do your homework first, and then you have free time, or whatever, and they don't do it. Or in the church, why doesn't the bishop do this? Or the clergy? Or the people? Behave this way. Do this. Make these decisions. We know it would be better if they did, and they don't. What about our nation? Can we think of a time politicians are not doing what is right and good? They actually end up doing the opposite. We have anguish when the leaders in our government seem so thoughtless and don't seem to care. Why raise this all too common and often painful experience of people not doing what we know is best, causing us and others disappointment and frustration and hurt? Why raise that issue? It's because this is what is going on to Jesus in today's gospel reading. The context is that Jesus has been traveling and preaching and healing, trying to reach people, and then he has this outburst. His focus is on Jerusalem, the holy city, but when he says Jerusalem, we need to think more than just the religious leaders and people inside those city walls. Jerusalem is symbolic, an extension for all people of faith. It's a pretty remarkable statement from Christ. So listen to what Jesus says. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how often have I desired to gather your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing. How often he has tried. How many times he has made the effort to gather the people together, but he couldn't, or they wouldn't. He has failed because they are not willing. And then Jesus uses this image of himself as a hen protecting a brood of chicks. Now, it's really interesting that this is a female image. He doesn't compare himself to a rooster, but to a mother hen. He describes himself in this nurturing, even sacrificial, feminine metaphor. This is something that mother hens actually do. She will hold out her wings. She will use her very body to protect her babies, to protect her chicks from the elements or predators. Really a beautiful image. But let's be clear, it doesn't work. The people resist. Jesus is reaching out his arms in love to gather people, to protect them, and he is unsuccessful. When he has that outburst, can you even sense some of his frustration, disappointment, maybe even the exhaustion of Jesus? How many times have I tried? We see here Christ experiencing a reality that maybe you and I have to face. Because you really can't force people to do something if they don't want to. We can invite, reach out arms of love, offer protection, helpful direction, wanting the best from them, for them, but it may not work. So why don't people want to come under Christ's mothering, nurturing embrace? Well, for some it seems it's because they are disappointed and frustrated in Jesus. They had expected something different from him. They want somebody who will come and throw out those oppressive Romans. They want a warrior leader, a fiery rooster who can kick out the bad guys and get the people to behave. Sometimes people are drawn to a ruthless, powerful leader who says they're going to get things done. Not so much to a humble, compassionate figure, a nurturing mother hen who's ready to suffer for others. As old a story as Adam and Eve in the garden, right? They're told not to eat the forbidden fruit, and they do it anyway. It's the theme of people being resistant and rebellious to God's ways. So can we admit that this also might at times be a truth about me and you? Might be times, well, I want to choose my own path. Don't tell me what to do. I don't want to be under those nurturing wings. It feels a little controlling. Sometimes I want what I want. It might have me ended up speaking or behaving in ways that are stubborn, selfish, prideful. Or as we're going to pray in the confession in just a few moments, we're going to pray, God of all mercy, we confess that we have sinned against you, opposing your will in our lives. If God can't get people to follow, it's because God took this risk to create in human beings this amazing ability that's easily abused called free will. And sometimes we don't use that gift very well. We might want to rush to put an easy, happy ending on this struggle, to jump to, well, it's all going to turn out right in the end. In Lent, it might be helpful to stay with the dilemma a bit. How a very human Jesus failed to gather people and to get them to behave. He faced disappointment and frustration and rejection. In our lives, when the church falls short, when our spouse, our coworkers, our children, our national leaders don't do what is right and good, even as we offer it to them, Jesus has been there. He really knows what it's like for us to be let down, exhausted, maybe even a little angry, certainly heartbroken at what's going on. And so in the midst of this, we also might be tempted to walk away, to give up. Of course we are. To become cynical in the face of resistance and bad choices by other people, understandable. But Jesus does model something for us. For all his disappointment and anguish, even in the midst of his failure to gather people, Jesus didn't give up on Jerusalem. And he didn't give up on the disciples. And he didn't give up on the human race. So that can be a question for us. How do I choose to be? How are we going to respond in the face of people not doing what we know is best? Can I stay in touch with my higher spiritual values to continue to choose love and generosity and stay on that path of Christ?